Alright guys, Roblox has just pushed out one of the biggest avatar changes we've seen in a long time, and it's already ruining Forsaken while causing problems across the entire platform. Let's break it all down. So if you didn't already know, Roblox has officially started removing classic faces from the catalog, and a lot of them have now been put off sale completely. These are the same faces that people have been using for years, and now they're being replaced by dynamic heads, which are basically the newer 3D animated versions. This might not sound like a huge issue, but in reality, it's caused a ton of backlash from the community. A lot of players are now asking for refunds because they originally paid for these classic faces, not the dynamic versions that Roblox is now forcing onto their avatars. And that's really the biggest problem here. This isn't just an optional change, it's something that Roblox is forcing onto everyone. Even though there is technically an option to turn off facial animations, it doesn't fully solve the issue. It only works on certain heads, and even then, it doesn't always function properly. So instead of feeling like a choice, it feels like a half-finished feature that's been pushed out way too early. And this gets even worse when you look at how the conversion actually works. If you owned a classic to deface, Roblox gives you the 3D dynamic version for free, which sounds good at first. But once people actually started using these new heads, they quickly realized that a lot of them feel unfinished. Some faces don't look right, some animations feel off, and overall, it just feels like Roblox rushed this entire update without fully polishing it first. And because of that, a lot of players' avatars are now completely messed up. Even for me, my avatar is now using a dynamic head based on Invincible, and while it might look fine now, there's actually a chance it could get removed in the future. That's because the creator who made the face and the 2D clothing that they have with the head, it now needs to have an active Roblox premium subscription to keep those items on sale. So this isn't just a visual change. Now this is where things start to get really interesting, especially if you play Forsaken, because this update doesn't just affect Roblox avatars, it actually has a direct impact on the game itself. Even though the faces used in Forsaken are technically decals and not the actual Roblox classic faces, this update still creates a problem, and that affects how these designs are displayed and integrated into the game. Voxov, the lead game director of Forsaken, has already spoken about this, and he mentioned that he is thinking of reverting the dynamic heads back into their 2D format so they can properly work within Forsaken. And this is a big deal, because the new dynamic heads really don't fit the style of the game at all. Forsaken has always had a very specific look, and these animated heads just don't match that aesthetic. With this, there is a huge forum post that Dogetsun made to help developers convert dynamic heads into the classic format. It works as of now and allows games to implement it while keeping the same format they have been using for ages. However, someone also suggested that, to recreate the classic faces for Forsaken, they could take images of the faces and reapply them in-game, then use code to sync those visuals with the dynamic head the player is currently using. So instead of relying on Roblox's system directly, Forsaken could build its own workaround to preserve the original look of the characters. Now this sounds like a solid solution, but there's a big issue with it. Roblox probably isn't going to support this kind of workaround long-term. If they're fully committing to dynamic heads, then they're likely going to keep updating the system in a way that prevents developers from reverting things back to the old style. Which means even if Forsaken manages to fix it now, there's a chance it could break again in the future. And that's what makes this update so concerning. It's not just a one-time change. It's something that could continue affecting games over time, especially ones like Forsaken that rely heavily on specific character designs and visuals. So while the developers are clearly trying to adapt and protect the game from these changes, it's still uncertain how things will play out in the long run. Hopefully, these workarounds hold up, because if they don't, we could end up seeing a lot of skins and characters being affected in ways that the developers didn't intend. And honestly, the reaction from the community has already been massive. A lot of players are not happy with this change at all, especially those who have been using classic faces for years. These are items people paid for, and now they're being replaced with something completely different. You've got players asking for refunds, saying that they didn't pay for dynamic heads, they paid for the original 2D versions. And while Roblox is technically giving the 3D versions for free, that doesn't really fix the issue, because it's not what people originally bought in the first place. A lot of people are also pointing out how this completely changes the identity of their avatars. Classic faces were a huge part of what made Roblox avatars feel unique, and now that they're being replaced, everything just feels more generic and less personal. And it's not just players being affected either, because this update also has a big impact on creators. As I mentioned earlier, some creators now need to have an active Roblox premium subscription just to keep their items on sale. That means if they stop paying for premium, their items could disappear, which is a huge problem for people who rely on this as a source of income. So this update isn't just cosmetic, it's affecting the entire ecosystem of Roblox. And looking at the bigger picture, this could be a sign of where Roblox is heading in the future. They seem to be pushing more towards realistic avatars and dynamic systems, moving away from the classic blocky style that made the platform what it is today. Now, for some players, that might be a good thing. But for a lot of others, it feels like Roblox is losing its identity. And the worrying part is that this might not be the end of it. If Roblox continues in this direction, we could see even more classic features being removed or replaced in future updates. So while this update might seem small at first, it could actually be the start of much bigger changes. And overall, this update just feels like it needed a lot more time before being pushed out. The idea of dynamic heads isn't necessarily a bad one, but the way it's been implemented right now just isn't there. It feels rushed, incomplete, and not fully thought through, especially when you look at how many players are already unhappy with it. We've already seen so many issues come from this, whether it's avatars being completely messed up, certain faces looking unfinished, or even games like Forsaken having to come up with their own workarounds just to keep things functioning properly. At that point, it stops feeling like an improvement and starts feeling like something that's just creating more problems than it's actually solving. And honestly, the most concerning part about all of this is that this might only be the start. If Roblox continues pushing updates like this without fully refining them first, that's why so many players are worried right now, because this doesn't just affect how avatars look today, it could completely change how they work going forward. So what do you think about this update? Should Roblox bring back classic faces? Subscribe and hit the bell for more Forsakening It.